Hey guys, welcome back to episode 2 of Resale Zone. In today's episode, we go through how you can start an eBay store with zero capital. JF and I send out some really cool ideas, and these ideas apply to everybody. So even if you're not a beginner, I think there's a lot of value to be gained from this episode. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Let's jump right into it.
Hey everybody, Jeff here with Resale Heroes. Welcome to the second episode of the eBay Resale Zone. I am here with Commonlad.
So hello everybody.
Introduce yourself and
yeah, for sure. So I'm a reseller who primarily sells video games and other things like that on eBay. And I mean, that's basically, I record everything that I do on YouTube and social media. I don't know. Is there an exciting way to make this sound more exciting than it is? Or is it just, we're still new here. We're still practicing our intro. That's basically it. You know, I resell stuff on eBay. There you go.
There you go. Well, I mean, that's the essentials. So JF with Resale Heroes, we do the same thing, just on a bigger scale. So we're full-timers. We have one of the biggest stores in Canada. You know, we sell collectibles and action figures and video games and all that stuff. And our YouTube channel is all about helping you get to where you're going on your eBay journey faster by giving you tips and all that stuff. So episode number 2 of the eBay Resale Zone is how to get started with an eBay store or an eBay presence with no money or very little money.
This is zero capital, guys. If you're starting from nothing, this is how you do it. We're going to break it down here today, and I'm super excited about it because I think this is how I didn't start with nothing, but I started with close to nothing, and it's very exciting to me whenever anybody says I have no money to start with. I get excited because there's ways to start without money, right? And I think you and I were discussing a few things before the show, and I think we've got some really cool tips here. So if you're one of those people that watches our videos and maybe hasn't started yet because of a lack of capital or things, listen to this. If you really want to get going, we'll help you kind of jumpstart your business here. And I think this could really benefit you.
Also, make sure to comment down below which of these tips you found most helpful. Make sure you like and subscribe also, because we're super cool and nice and thoughtful. So anyways, so
I love that. That's a good pitch.
Yeah, not bad, right? So we did not. So at Resale Heroes, we did not start with nothing, but no matter where you're. So here's the thing. There's a saying that one of my favorite online coaches uses a lot, and I forget the exact wording, but it's something along the lines of a lot of people never get started. So even if you start small, start something that matters, but start where you are with what you have. And he also has another saying that is the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. but here's where a lot of people get hung up. People will think, I don't have anything, I don't have money, so I'm never going to start. They don't even make a plan. They don't even think about it. They just never start. They have dreams, they have hopes, but they don't become goals. They don't become actionable plans because they get stuck there. So how do you get unstuck from that is kind of what we're going to start with now. So what's some ways that you can start with no money? Well, even if you have no money or little money, so I'll say under $100 as far as starting capital. So anywhere between 0 and 100, you know, you can get started with $50. You can get started with $0. So how would you get started with no money? Well, you need to get money. And one way that you can do that is by selling things that you have. And if you're not familiar with the eBay platform yet, that is a great way to get started and to learn by selling low impact, low cost things. You could also just sell them locally on Facebook or whatever marketplaces you have available, just to get your first $50 or $100 so that then you can buy some real merchandise. But I mean, here's some ideas. Like I could sell these boxes back here and probably make $100 just selling these boxes. You could sell old DVDs, old movies that you have. You could sell old electronics that you don't use. You could sell, I don't know. I was going to say pillows. I don't know if pillows are legal to sell when used, but anyway, whatever, right? You could sell furniture. You can sell whatever. I'm not saying sell off all your belongings, but just get yourself started. And once you have $100, by putting good sales principles into play, you can turn that into 200, into 400, into 800. And at some point down the line, you can pay yourself back with nicer stuff than what you pawned off in the first place. So that's one way. So
I think, yeah, to add on to that, I mean, you had to get your feet wet. And I think we can both agree that, a lot of what reselling is a mindset. And to get into that mindset of looking at things and seeing money, because that's a lot of what it is. You start to learn what sells for what, and you start to know what to look for. And then everything to you, after you do this for a while or for enough time, everything that you see becomes, what can I sell that for? And a lot of building that mindset and getting started, and a lot of beginners don't have that, but a lot of what that is going out and starting maybe with some stuff that you own or whatever. If you buy a couple of really cheap things for under that $100 threshold and just getting your feet wet. Again, I like the idea of not going on eBay. I like, do marketplace first for a couple of times, go meet up with people and see how they interact. You got to get an idea for how people think when they're buying things, how the offering system works, and then move on to maybe going to a slightly more complex platform using eBay or even Poshmark for a couple of pieces of clothing that you have or whatever. Try out the e-commerce space, learn how to, ship and do all this fun stuff. But all in the process, you're building your first little bit of capital off of those items that are just sitting around the house doing nothing. And I think that's a really valuable lesson to learn, because the more and more of that stuff that you do, the more you're going to be ready to actually go out in the world and start sourcing your own items and then making those, being able to turn those into actual capital. So there's really cool stuff there. I think a lot of potential for new people to start. And that's why it just excites me so much when people say, I don't have capital, I don't know where to start. It's like, oh no, but you do. Look in your bedroom, right?
So I was in sales for a long time, and whenever someone would bring an objection, because that's what this is, we're basically convincing ourselves not to do something. My first response after years of experience, not when I first started, but after years of experience, was, that's not a problem. That's not a problem. Here's why. And then you find a solution to that problem, and then you move on and you get the sale. But I had a thought when you were talking about doing the Facebook marketplace, getting your feet wet first. Sometimes you can trade things that you have instead of selling them. And sometimes you can trade something that you don't want, which is something that someone else wants, for something of higher value than just money. So money's easier, like it's simpler. But I mean, so I just have a random item here. Like, this is a CD that I don't have listed. All right. So this CD is probably worth $5, but someone out there is willing to pay 10 for this. And if I find that right person, well, I can get $10 off that person. Right. But that person probably doesn't live in my neighborhood. So
true.
Maybe I'd be able to trade some of these for something else that's more sellable instead. So that's just an idea that came to my mind, because sometimes people really want something and they're willing to pay extra, because when you really desire something, the perceived value is higher, and whatever else you already have has a lower perceived value, regardless of what the real value actually is. That was a little deep.
I like that, though,
going that deep, but
because you can talk about perceived value and what people believe to be real. And one of the things that new resellers don't realize is the value that people put on things. When you're starting out, you might have a lot of things in your house that you literally think is junk. And a lot of people walk into a thrift store for their first time and see a lot of junk. It's the classic saying, one man's junk is another man's treasure, or whatever. It's that sort of idea that all these things that you're putting no value on actually do have value in the market, and your ability to get those items to market will determine if you can be successful in your first little bit of reselling. And so you just need to start going around your house, go to your basement and your attic, and identify those dated items that you really believe in your closets, the dated items that you really believe have no value, and start looking them up on eBay. And you will be blown away. I was shocked the first time that I walked into a thrift store and looked up a VCR on eBay and realized that I can get $100 for it. It's baffling. So there's so many everyday items that you have, I guarantee it, and that you just don't realize the value on, that could literally kickstart your entire business. And then you're just sitting here making an excuse. I don't have any money. I don't have any way to start. You have $500 in old tech sitting, in your basement that you could just list. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there as well.
Yeah, and it's funny. So I'm sitting over here laughing because I just had a funny thought. And the funny thought is, so often we think things have no value, but they do have value. And often, other times, we think things have a lot of value
And they have no
and they
value.
have very little value.
It works the other way too.
Yeah. So you also have to learn to sometimes you got to let go of things. We're talking real deep here today, but sometimes you got to let go of things. But also when negotiating, and I mean, this kind of on another tangent here, but when negotiating, you have to realize also some people will not be willing to negotiate down their price because they have emotional attachment to things. And when that happens, you need to just move on. So don't be that person. Just let go of things for a good price. And so that's one way that you can build up your capital. So either liquidating stuff that you already have that you're not using, so basically just your junk or your whatever, or trading it for other things of value that someone else may want to pay you good money for. So what's another approach that, how did you get started?
Well, the one way that I got started was I identified an item that I thought would be a valuable thing to sell on eBay. And you can do that now because you have resources like YouTube, like this show, like, eBay itself. You can go look at solds and all that things, right? So you can tell what has value. So I identified the item that I wanted to sell, which in my case was video games. And then I just sent out a message to everybody I knew. I said, who's got it? Like, who's got old games that they don't want that they want to sell to me? And sure enough, a couple of people came through, and I had one guy that brought me, I think it was about 50 games, and they were all Nintendo Wii and GameCube and all this stuff. And I told him, I want to go and I want to start a business. I want to resell this stuff. And he said, sure. And so I bought it for $30. And that's a great way to start because everybody, again, it's that unrealized value. They all, if you're friends with them or close to them, or your family, they'll often just give you stuff to start. Like you don't even have to pay for it. But it's a really good network of people and stuff. If we're being honest, it's a good network of things that you can reach out to and obtain without having to spend much money at all, if not, $0. So I think that's a really good source to start with. And that's how I started personally.
Yeah. And they may, so you talk to them about games, but maybe they would have, like one of my sisters. So at this point we had already an established store, and one of my sisters offered me a bag full of clothing. She didn't mention that they were new with tags. If I would have known that, I probably would have taken the bag. I thought they were old clothing, but like people have things to give away and they don't know what to do with it and they never get around to it. But if you say, I'll take anything, if you got clothing,
yeah.
If you have DVDs, if you have whatever. So and another thing, so of course, friends and family, that's an easy place to start. But you can also go on local classifieds online, either on Facebook or whatever's in your area, and look for stuff that's listed for free.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to find usually home runs there, but you can find a $5-10 thing that someone just wants to get rid of. And then after a few things of those that you go and pick up, all of a sudden you have $50 or you have $100. Like you go get the free thing and then you resell it. And then again, I wouldn't want to do that now where we're at with our store, but if we would have had no money to start, you need to start somewhere. So that's a good place to start to get the free stuff and to just get started, right?
Now, I want to talk about something else too, because we can't ignore the fact that the time of year that we're in is actually amazing for anybody looking to get started. And you're going to be surprised here when I say that it's not actually before Christmas, but it's after Christmas.
Correct.
And the reason for that is because, so we're in fourth quarter right now. And for anybody who's a new reseller may not know this, but that's the most lucrative time for any business because it's selling up to the Christmas season. And fourth quarter refers to the last 3 months before Christmas. And so you get all these items changing hands over the course, before Christmas and all these things going out. But the second that the Christmas day hits, you go 2 weeks after that to a thrift store or any of these places, they are loaded with stuff because everybody's either getting rid of Christmas gifts that they didn't like, or they're getting rid of stuff that they're replaced with their new Christmas stuff. And that means that there's such an abundance of stuff. So for anybody looking to get into this space, this is by far the best time to do it. And I'm talking specifically, I suppose, after Christmas and those first, month after Christmas. But also, if you're reaching out to all your friends and family in that time and saying, just consider me your Value Village or your Goodwill, like, whatever, bring me your bins, I'll go through them. bring me the stuff you're going to throw out. I'll go through it. And then I'll, you can proceed and throw out whatever's not worth it. But you can pull stuff out of there that's worth a lot. And again, people don't perceive the value. It's just a really good time to get started if you have nothing. And I think this is like, we can't ignore the fact that Christmas is right around the corner. And that's like the number one time to get inventory.
Yeah, it's a good point actually, and I think Black Friday is coming up too. Like it's just one of those things. And I just had another thought. Like we're talking about a bunch of stuff that I wasn't, but so I had another thought. Consignment. So for those of you who don't know what consignment is, so consignment is, someone who has a thing that they want to sell. You sell it for them, and you basically split the profits, whatever that looks like. So you could do consignment for people if you. We all know someone that has a collection of things that's worth something. We all know someone who's trying to sell something unsuccessfully. So you could make a deal with that person and be like, look, we can probably get more for this on eBay than on Kijiji or Facebook Marketplace. So how about I sell this for you? And once it's sold, you give me 20% or 30% or whatever you're comfortable asking for. And you split the difference. Make sure it's after profit. So after you've paid all the fees and the whatever, because I mean, this is a little more advanced, but still it's a way that you can get quality stuff for free. So you had nothing, you didn't pay anything for it. But you need to have that trust with that person there first. So they trust you enough to basically lend you their thing for you to sell it. And then money comes into you and then you split the pot. So I just thought that was an interesting idea because that's something that we want to get into more because we want to get into higher ticket price things without having to shell out more money either. So there's something for everybody here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would put the one caution on consignment as a beginner though, because one of the first, I totally agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like I want the third or fourth deal that I ever did was consignment. So I'm totally all for that. Like beginner consignment is genius because you don't have to shell out capital. I would just say though, maybe for your first lot, I would do that after you've sold your first few items. Because you could run into issues with, if you're not familiar with the platform, with somebody who's trying to rip you off or feedback and all these things, and you don't want to end up, losing the buddy's $400 thing because you didn't know what you were doing. But that's all I want to put that out there as sort of a cautionary tale to maybe get a little bit of experience first. But I completely agree with you there, and I think consignment's a great option for beginners and to just get some awesome profits right off the bat. Again, if you have that collector friend or whatever, I mean, it's the way to go.
Yeah, no, and that's a fair point. And at the end of the day, you don't start there from day one, but keep it in the back of your mind. And if there's an opportunity that pops up, you can, in the same sense as what you were saying, that you're going to start seeing things and be like, that's $20, that's $30, that's $50. So, I mean, don't objectify people and things, but at the same time, it's just making you aware of what things are worth. And then if you come into contact with someone that wants to sell something that's worth the time to split, you can have that in the back of your mind and kind of work something out.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny because even I'll walk into a friend's house now, and this is bad, but I'll walk in, I'll see Bell 5 TV remote, that's $15. Oh, Panasonic cordless phone, oh, that's another $30. Oh, Grand Theft Auto for the Xbox 360, that's $10 or whatever, right? And you go through all their items, you start going, but that's literally the kind of thing where you could reach out and be like, do you use that still? And then make the deal, right? Like that's literally what I've done in some cases, right? Like how much do you play those games? So whatever. So anyway, it's a cool place to start. And once you start thinking like that, you'll be surprised as to how quickly you can grow.
So those, I think, are the main ways to kind of build up your first little bundle of capital. So your first $100, $200, $300 to get started with. And going forward, where do you go from there? So there's a few things that you need to look at. And I'm going to talk from more of a business perspective because a lot of people who do, so we run this as a business. So Resale Heroes, we run it as a business. But a lot of people starting out are kind of hobby sellers. So it's kind of their first time. They haven't run a business before. They're not as conscious of their costs. So numbers are important. And I mean, you don't need to obsess about numbers, but you need to be aware of what costs what. So when you're first starting out, you want to get everything that you can for free. So I have a few notes here about getting supplies for free. So depending on what you're looking to sell, you're going to need boxes to ship it safely. You might need envelopes. You might need bubble wrap. you might need paper, whatever. So a few places that you can go to get these things for free in abundance. You can go to liquor stores and grocery stores to get an unlimited amount of boxes in all shapes and sizes for free. And you just have to ask. You just have to ask, and they'll bring you to the place because they just burn them or throw them out or whatever. And they have tons of them, and they just take up space and they want to get rid of them. You can go to furniture stores and sometimes grocery stores, depending on what they sell, to get bubble wrap for free. So at the point where we're at, we don't get the bubble wrap for free. We pay for it. We get it shipped right to our door. But when we were first starting out, we had people, and also you can ask people that you know, bring me some boxes and whatever stuff, because people buy stuff on eBay and Amazon and whatever all the time. And we still have people bringing us free bubble wrap and free boxes. And those, like, if you know someone who owns an office, or you have a contact, they have different, like, they have laptop boxes, and they, like, there's all kinds of ways where you can get all kinds of stuff for free if you just give it a little bit of thought, because otherwise it might cost $30 to get you started with supplies. Like,
Yeah.
you need some tape, you need some boxes, you need some envelopes, you need whatever. And most of that you can get for free.
And that could be detrimental to a starting business. And I mean, you make a great point. Like Amazon, come on, guys. Who, like, everybody's getting boxes from, you know, whatever store, whatever. But like, you can get so much stuff for free that way. I bet you could start your entire store just off, you know, a month of your online purchases. You know,
Yeah.
you know, with your bubble wrap and all your boxes, just save them, put them in a corner, and you're good to go. And that's something that I think I learned the good way. I literally had so many Amazon boxes at one point. Because I got them from everybody and wherever, but I was stacking them by the sizes. Like, I had all the different sizes of Amazon boxes just as stock in my warehouse, which is a great way to start off. So I think that, like, yeah, there's so many opportunities for free supplies out there. There's what you said. You can reach out to some stores. You can go the classic route, which I've never done, but I've always thought about, which is the dumpster diving approach, which I've seen some people do online when they go with the cardboard thing. They just pull out every box they could ever need. So don't pay for boxes off the bat, and definitely don't be paying for bubble wrap or packing paper or any of that stuff.
Like, when you're first starting out, you want to, basically the point here is you want to keep expenses as low as possible so that all of the money goes to getting stuff to sell. And that means don't get the store subscription so eBay has a subscription that you can get where you get these benefits and you whatever. But when you're first starting out, you get a certain amount of listings for free. So you don't need to get that right off the bat. Most people will never need to get the store subscription, depending on how big their store gets. And because the more you list consistently, they may give you more and more and more stuff for free. But when you get to a certain point, you can start paying the however much it is to get the store subscription. But a lot of people, when they start, they want to be cool. They buy the eBay branded envelopes. They buy the eBay branded boxes. They get the store subscription. They'll rent a space. They'll whatever, right? But you're killing your business when you start like that. Like, you're paying way more. Why pay for something when you can get it for free? Are the eBay boxes nice looking? Yes. Do some eBay buyers look weirded out when they get an Amazon box? Yes. But whatever, right? Like, you use whatever you have. We still use Amazon boxes every now and then. We buy boxes from Staples because, like, but occasionally we'll still go get some for free at the liquor store. Like, it's just one of those things. Because, right, so when you're starting out, you have little money, but you have time. And as time goes on and your store gets bigger, you have more money coming in, but you have less time. So it's all a juggling act, no matter, and we were talking about this before, no matter what the size of your store. That is basically what the juggling act is going to become going forward, is juggling, you know, how much can we afford to pay for this? How much time do we have to do everything? And it's finding that balance between those two things. Because at first you'll have more time. Theoretically, you'll have more time than money to invest. So you invest your time wisely and you invest your money wisely. And then as you go on, there'll be more money to be passed around. So you can kind of take liberties with the money a little bit more than you could before.
Yeah, absolutely. And so to touch on the first point, yeah, if you're starting out, I don't want to see anything on your income statement except for eBay fees and some shipping. And that's it. Because you should not be spending a dime on anything but inventory. You're trying to grow. I don't want to make this seem like, everybody's trying to grow immediately, but you gotta spend the money in the growth, because otherwise it happens with all the small businesses. You get distracted and you start buying this and that and you're renting space and blah blah, and guess what? You're not profitable. It happens to everybody, and then you limit your ability to grow. You're suffocating yourself. So I don't want to see anything on your income statement except for those two things. And then following that, as we're talking about, saving time versus money, as you progress in your business, I'm sure for you, it might be worth more if you go and you spend $16 on a roll of bubble wrap versus spending 2 hours to go and find some, because you've determined that your hourly rate has gone up to $30, $40. So to spend half that on bubble wrap for 1 hour or 2 hours of work otherwise is a really good justified investment. And you see that as you get higher and higher in business, to the point where you're starting to hire people to replace your role, because your time is worth more than it would be to just have that person come in and do it, because your hourly continues to go up. So it's something that you got to watch. But again, if you want to get to that point, you have to be frivolous with your spending. You have to make sure there's not one thing in that business that doesn't need to be there, because the second that you start filling it up with stuff is the second that you're going to fail, because you had to dedicate all your money to growth, and growth comes from purchasing inventory and your time. Your time is spent getting free things and listing as much as possible, as quickly as possible at a fair price. And I think that's all sort of the key things. If you can do all that when you're starting an eBay store, you will be successful.
It smells like money. It smells like money, what you just said. But actually, on the topic of growth, so for a long time, we didn't take anything out of the store, like money-wise. We just left it all there. So if you can afford to do so. So the one thing about the eBay business, it's not like a get-rich-quick thing. I'm not saying it never happens. Like, you might find the random Post-it note that's worth $1 million or whatever. But generally speaking, it's just consistent action over an extended period of time that builds and builds and builds, where you get to a point where you have money coming in and then all those things. But so if you can afford to do so, leave the money in, or at least most of it in, to grow and multiply. So again, going back to what we were saying before, once you've done all the strategies that we've done that take a lot of time, not a lot of money, then you'll have a little bit of money. So let's just say $100. You have $100. What do you do with it? Well, you find something that is worth 300 and you try and get it for 100. Like, basically that's what it is. And then once that sells, you have $300. And then you do that over and over and over. And all of a sudden, over a few months, you have $1,000. And then you can just grow faster and faster and faster. But if you're taking money out of it, it doesn't grow as fast. So I'm not going to go too much into detail, but that's the idea. And we'll make a video in the future about what kind of things you can buy, what sells for good money and all that stuff. But actually, we on my channel, we have videos like that every week. Like, we have so much stuff that sells. And I know that you have stuff with that too. But yeah, that's not the point of this video. But
I have a question for you regarding what you just said.
Yes.
So you're starting with $100, and I think this is where a lot of people get stuck. And if they're watching our videos, they probably get stuck on this as well. So I'm curious as to what your answer is going to be here. Your first $100, are you going to spend it on one item that you can flip for $200, or are you going to spend it like we would, maybe on a lot of 100 items that you can sell for $5 each, but the sell-through rate on them is much slower? So in the long term, you can make $500, or you can start with just that one flip to 200. Because I think this is like a commonly debated thing. It's like, you're going to end up with less money initially if you're buying more things, because they're going to take longer to sell. But at the same time, you're going to have more sales and more time to practice and maybe less risk. Or is it better to jump into the big money thing? And I don't know what the answer is here. I'm sure there's not actually the right answer, but I'm curious to see what you would say, because you could just keep flipping as much as possible every single time, 1 to 200, 200 to 400, 400, or whatever, and keep going up that way. What do you think?
Killing me here. This is a great question.
Putting you on the spot.
Yeah. So here's the thing. That does depend on your comfort level. So everybody has a certain level of, like, a level that they're willing to pay for something without freaking out.
And it's risk tolerance too.
Yeah, basically a different risk tolerance, I guess, is a better term for it. So I think it's better, although I said find a $300 item to flip it into whatever, I think it's better to not put all your eggs in one basket. And it really is a toss-up for your first item. I think you should buy a few items, like maybe like several items that add up to 300 as opposed to just the one, because you're going to have one that sells and then you can flip that and then you can kind of have a thing going, because there's always the chance, it doesn't happen often, but you might make a lapse of judgment, buy something that actually is broken or ends up not working, and then it's worth a lot less than you thought. And that still happens to us. Like, it doesn't happen often, but it does happen. So putting all your eggs in one basket is never a good thing. But at the same time, it's important to buy something that will sell quickly, because when you're first starting out, you need that.
You need the capital.
It's okay when you're first starting out to have like a smaller profit margin for it to sell faster, I guess.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, so and that process, of course, you want to make as much money as possible as quickly as possible, but you don't want to be sitting on something that's going to take months to sell, right? Not at first. So you want to find a thing that you know or have a good idea that's going to sell quickly. And even if you have to pay a little extra for it, if it flips fast, that's what's important, I guess, when you're first starting out. And when you start having more items in your store, like say when you have like 100 items in your store, then you can have a balance of a certain amount of items are like those slow burners that are real winners that will make you good money, but they take longer to sell. And then everything else is just kind of a churning, a blender.
The quick turnovers.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you. And I think you made a really good point there. And actually, now that you're saying that and I'm thinking about it more, I think we'd both agree that maybe somewhere in between the two is actually where you want to start.
Yes.
Do the 5 items for 20 each. So sell for 40 or 50 each. And that way you get enough. They're fast sellers. They can give you enough each to be worth your time, but they're also not going to sit there and be way too many items, but it's also not going to be one eggs in one basket. So I really like that. But I want to touch on another point that you made there, which was the price and intermarket thing, which I think is so critical for beginner seller. People overestimate and they overvalue themselves as sellers and as stores when they're starting out. They might see us sell a PS3 for $100, but what they don't realize is that our PS3 is actually worth more than the one that they found, because not only even that we have the ability to test it and we have the ability to maybe clean it properly and all these things that we do, that adds some value. But the real value added is the fact that we might have hundreds or thousands of pieces of feedback and you have 0 when you're starting out. So the idea that you should even be charging that much with a 0 feedback store is crazy. So that's one reason to price in the market. But then the other reason is so that it directly benefits you. You want to make fast sellers. So you're going to try to lower your margin at first to get your sales rolling. That tells eBay that you're actually serious. You're going to want to sell things. That's going to help you get your first few pieces of feedback, which is going to help you sell more things in the future. And then additionally, it's going to help you get your capital back so you can reinvest that immediately as fast as possible into the next items that can make you more money. So don't underestimate the power of underpricing the market when you're starting out on the platform. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. They go on the platform, they look at something that's selling for 40, they don't know what they're doing. They're overpricing it by 10. Not only are they overpriced in that sense, it's not going to sell, and they don't have the feedback to guarantee or to command that price. So I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, and you can get stuck on the platform with your 10 listings being stuck up forever and you never selling them and have no clue. And then you just walk off the platform and say it didn't work.
Yeah. And even if you do everything right, sometimes it just won't sell for a while. So it's, I think it's a good point to keep in mind that when you're brand new, when your account is brand new, that means a buyer looks at your listing and he sees that you haven't dealt with anyone before. Some people don't care, but in the back of their minds, they know there's a bigger risk than if they come to my store and I might charge $5 more than you, but I've had 3,000 feedback like in the past year that says thumbs up, these guys are cool. And I like, there's the odd one that's like, these guys are terrible. But in general, everybody's happy. But I will say this, here's one suggestion that I can make, I think, for your first significant buy. So assuming you know a little bit about video games, I would suggest this. This is the buy that we make the most often. It's our bread and butter of our store. So look for a video game console like a PlayStation 2 or a PlayStation 3 or an Xbox 360 or whatever that comes with like 20 games and a few controllers and all the cables. Make sure that it works. And you can usually, like, most of them will sell it to you for like 150, but you will have that odd person that will sell it to you for 100. So focus on the one super deal. Don't just jump headfirst into getting whatever you can get. Find a good deal on a console and a bunch of games, because in a deal like that, you can sell the console. So I'll use the example of a run-of-the-mill PlayStation 3. So a PlayStation 3, there's so many different models. You probably have no idea if it's a 80 gig hard drive or a 120 or a 160 or whatever. All it does is make the price be a little different. But at the end of the day, you can expect to make over $100 on the sale of that console, which means you can make most of your money back just on selling that one item, and it will sell at some point. But all the leftover stuff that you have, you can make $20 of profit on each controller. You can make probably $3, $4, $5 on each whatever game. And in the bundle, there's probably 3 or 4 games that are worth $20, $25, $30. Now, don't buy sports games.
Oh man, here we go.
Yeah. So there, I mean, we're not going to go into too much detail here, but just before you buy, take a look at eBay, and do a little bit of research about how to research things. And there's a good idea for our next video, I guess. But so look at what things are worth and then see if it's worth buying.
But this is also where you can leverage your time against people like us, where we don't have the time to necessarily look up every single item in that lot or what the value is and everything. And we can go out there and make the bad buy that won't make us as much money, but we can still stay afloat. Yeah. Meanwhile, for you, you have the time. You're just starting out. You might not have the money, but you have the time. So take your time to go in and go on pricecharting.com or go to eBay and go to the sold comps and just look at every single item on there and figure out exactly what you're going to earn. So it's not even a question. And you can figure out the sell-through rate on those items, how soon you think it will sell and what to price it at. And you can figure that all out on your first lot before you even buy it. And that can guarantee you a really solid start, I think.
So the way that I look at it, I mean, it's like you say, we don't have the time to look all of them up. But when you've done it 100 times, you start recognizing games. And again, you're like, oh, that's $5, that's $7. But this is 20, that's 25, that's 30. So I think it's a fair assumption. Whenever we buy a bundle, I calculate it this way. Okay, I know I can get 100 for the console. So here's 100. And then I estimate that every game is worth $10. So if there's 20 games, that's $200 right there, $50 of accessories. So I'm estimating on the lower end that we can make about $350. So if I can get it for 100 or 125, like that's a good deal. And I'm not taking into consideration that there's a few that are worth 5 or 6, and there's a few that are worth 20, 25, 30. And the odd one that might be 50 or 60 or whatever, right? But so I think that would be a good first buy, because you get the big item and you get a bunch of small stuff, and you get a good variety of things that are going to sell right away, sell slowly, and all that stuff. And just to get some traction going. And if it takes a while to sell, you can still just do the tips we talked about at the beginning to start, manifesting more money out of nowhere using classifieds and all that other stuff, just to get the ball rolling in the store. But you just got to start somewhere.
And if I could add a final point to that sort of idea of your first buy, the other option, which is something that I actually haven't done too long ago when I started going to thrift stores, is kind of the other alternate route you could start when going out. And the thing that I did on my first time to a thrift store, I didn't even want to go buy anything. And this was why I got serious. I said, I'm going to start selling things from here and I want to start making some good money. The first thing I did was I spent maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours in the thrift store looking up every item I saw. on eBay, right? Model number, item. Okay, this is an amp. Oh, here's another amp. That's what amps go for. Oh, here's a VCR. That's another VCR. Okay, so that's roughly what those go for. Here's phones, blah, blah, blah. Here's that. What's the sell-through rate on this? What's that? And still to this day, I'll go to a thrift store, and if I'm bored, I'll just sit there in the text section and look up everything I haven't seen before. And by doing this, I'm able to identify and start to learn about what items sell and what I think I want to be able to sell in my own store and what I can test and all this fun stuff. But also, it's a good way to get your first few items. And especially when you're starting out, you want to be selective. So again, I love your lot idea. I think that's a really great way to start, is to find something like that where you can guarantee your money back on the first big item, but then still be able to make a lot on the little items, have experience listing a bunch of things. I think that's a fantastic idea. But another approach that one could take is go to a thrift store and, you know, strictly put a rule that I'm only going to pick up whatever makes me a 60% margin or more with a month sell-through rate. And you just simply sit there all day and you look up everything. and yeah, some people will think you're weird for doing it, but you will walk out of there with some pretty good stuff. Because again, you have the time that you can leverage over us. We have to run in there and make quick decisions and look up half the stuff we're buying, but you can sit there all day and you can decide on a few items that are really going to be home runs. So that's another option.
And here's a random thing. It's an idea that we had, but that we never acted on. So sometimes thrift stores will have seniors day. So this is a fun activity that you could do with your parents if they're old enough, or your grandparents or whatever. Just bring someone along and just fill up a cart of stuff and have them pay 20% less.
Yep.
You can pay them back.
Or a lot of the thrift stores will have a 20% off discount coupon that you can get for donating with them or whatever. So we always bring an item with us, and we get. But yes, yeah, you could bring your seniors in too and get that discount.
Double. You can get double.
Pretty clever. You get the double.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So think about it, guys. That's those
yeah,
are some really good ways. Yeah.
but so I think that's a pretty good place to wrap up. So I mean, those are a bunch of ideas, guys, and of course, you just got to start. Just start, figure out where you're at, and figure out where you want to go. Connect those two dots using the strategies we gave you, and you're already well on your way to having a decent eBay store thing going on.
Awesome. Yeah. Hopefully you guys found some value in this. I know even I did, just talking about it. And I think there's some things we can implement here. And I think those have been some really good tips for beginners. I think you guys can really kickstart your business using some of this stuff. And, you know, don't be scared, just go attack it. And again, using some of these tips, you can be pretty sure that you'll do okay, I think.
Yeah. So let us know in the comments, you know, which tip you found most helpful, and also what you'd like us to cover in future videos, because we want to make this as interactive as possible. And again, this show is a thing that we want to do regularly, and using your input for your questions is kind of the whole idea. And make sure you bounce around in our videos. We're going to be linking both our channels and our Instagram and all that. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time at the eBay Resale Zone.
See you guys.